Welcome back, everybody. I'm Joey.
I'm Jeremy.
And this is Feedback Loop, where we listen to music and then we talk about it.
It's accurate. This week, before we get into it, though, I just want to call attention to something that's happening in the real world. We are recording this episode on June 1st of 2020. And this past weekend, we've seen tons of riots and protests related to injustice in the law enforcement system. And we want to take this moment to say we fully support the Black Lives Movement 100%. That shit matters. The stuff's gone on for too long. We mention this specifically in part because we feel we have a duty to show our support in these times, and also in part because this album on a specific track has very similar, almost eerily similar content on it. So this is kind of a disclaimer. The nature of this discussion might become uncomfortable for many listeners, and so we want to give you guys a heads up before getting there, and it kind of catches you off guard. So with that, we stand with you guys. The shit's gotta end, but that's for a different podcast. So with that in mind, this week, Joey, what have we listened to?
This week, we listened to the album Mourn by Corbin. It's a pretty nice, you put it well, dark pop album. And I don't know, I didn't even know dark pop was a thing.
Yeah, I think this is actually strangely the first male vocal dark pop that I've heard, and it's not to discredit it. It does have a lot of like a hip hoppy feel, but yeah, it's groovy.
Definitely a good night driving album for sure. Something that I always put on. I don't know if it's rainy, if I'm feeling moody, if I'm ready to just have to think about some sad things and some bad things.
Hashtag sad boys. This is the ultimate hashtag sad boy album.
100%. But yeah, so I mean, the way I found this album is honestly like I was just like perusing music boards online as I want to do, and found this, and it was just literally somebody asking, "Hey, this album, is it any good?" And nobody had replied to it, and I was like, "You know what, guy? I'm gonna find out for you.
I'm gonna tell you."
I never replied to the guy, but I found out. But yeah,
well, now we can tell the world what we think of this album.
Yeah, definitely. Now, yeah, if that guy's listening, you know now. You know.
That's what this is how we blow up, Joey. You go back, you find that dead thread, and you post the link to this episode of the podcast and say, "Here's your answer, buddy."
Yep.
Sorry it took so long.
If I can ever find it again, I will do that. Yeah. I promise you, sir. Or madam. I don't know. It's the internet. Who knows?
Yeah. If you're listening, you know, but we don't.
Yeah.
So.
And if you don't know, now you know.
If you don't know, now you know. The Mourn is the name of the album, as we said. The album art, it looks like a photograph, a picture of presumably Corbin himself.
Yes.
I don't know what his name is. I didn't do any research.
His name is Corbin.
Okay.
His last name is Smidzik.
Smidzik. So on the album, you have Mr. Smidzik, presumably in kind of a black dressy attire, standing in the forest on like a moss-covered rock or something.
Yeah, very doom and gloom looking.
Very doom. It looks like he's attending a funeral.
Yeah,
in
like
the woods.
You can tell this is a sad boy album by looking at the front cover.
Yes, 100%. And as previously established, if this is the first first episode that you're listening to, we're sad boys. We support the hashtag sad boy movement.
Definitely.
As well.
Definitely.
But, yeah, let's get right into it.
Shit, man.
The first track, Ice Boy. First, it's 4.5 minutes. I guess before we get too deep in it, 10 tracks, 41 minutes. I know we're not consistent at saying that information, but I'm hearing it. I did it.
Yeah.
So, first track, Ice Boy is 4.5 minutes. It's got a kind of simple synth vibe to it that has this deep bass in it, and my initial impression of this was like, yeah, the music's kind of groovy. I can get into this, and then his vocals came in, and I was kind of like shocked and put off.
Yeah.
But once I came back to it with expectations set, I think it fits this album. It fits the music perfectly. He's so expressive with his voice, and it happens throughout this whole album. But like his voice is very raw and at some points slurred a bit, but you can like feel what he's feeling throughout this album, and I think it's impressive the way he has the command of his voice, or he expresses that in such a way.
Definitely, because I mean, like, I'm glad you said the whole thing about having to take a second listen to it, because honestly, the first time I listened to this, I had about the same reaction that you had. Like,
yeah, it's so unexpected.
It's in the very first sound you hear on this album is that it's like a little drum track that sounds like it's the bass program on like a Casio keyboard almost. It's like
I really don't like the snare used on it, but everything else in this track in this album I think kills it.
Yeah, honestly, and that's the thing. This song I feel like has such a different vibe, honestly, than the rest of the album. And it's weird too, because I've always thought that. I don't know if it's because like it's the first track, the whole title is all caps. Yes. And none of the rest of the tracks are like that. It's I don't know. It's just always felt
it could have been maybe it could have been like a demo maybe for the album, like a proof of concept kind of a thing that he recorded and then decided to put it on the album at the end as a kind of an introductory track. I know we talk about like first and last tracks a lot being important. The first track on this one honestly feels a bit weaker than everything else, but it's not a bad track. I don't think at all.
I like it a lot more now than I used to.
Yeah, this album over the past 2 weeks, because we took a break to try and catch up a little bit and recognize Memorial Day. Over the past 2 weeks, every time I listen to this album, I think I like it a little bit better. And I think it's a sign of a good album. A lot of my favorite albums kind of end up that way.
Definitely.
So it's, I guess, spoiling the end. I think you nailed it with this recommendation.
Yeah.
Specifically back to the song, though, Ice Boy. It seems to be about meeting a girl, falling in love, and then maybe her having doubts or second thoughts after maybe the initial honeymoon period is over. And instead of wanting a breakup, he's wanting to put things on hold, or maybe she's putting things on hold or on ice, as the track title indicates.
Yeah.
And take some time to kind of see if she decides to stay or not. Like I said, not my favorite track, but I think a big part of that is because it was I had no expectations coming into it at first, and it caught me so off guard.
Definitely. Right into the title track, Mourn, where you can immediately feel a tone shift, I think. Yeah. Because, like, I don't know, the way the first song starts off, the way Ice Boy starts off, it's got that, like I said, that generic Casio keyboard.
Yeah, it's very simple and synthy.
Yeah, and then, like, this song, it just starts off, like, I don't know, lonely and dark are two.
Yeah, it has a very nice dark feel, and it has kind of like maybe a more modern or mainstream kind of trap or rap beat to it.
Yeah, and that's where, like, because I will say, I think I might have mislabeled this a little bit, because I said it was a hip-hop album, which, I mean, hip-hop's, it's a wide spectrum of stuff.
Sure.
But, like, I feel like dark pop sounds like it covers it better. So I like that. I honestly never heard that term before. But,
sure.
Yeah, there is, like, this is where I got kind of the hip-hop, like, from what I was saying, hip-hop.
Right.
From.
Yeah, for sure. It happens a couple other times, I think, throughout this album. But, yeah, there's a lot of good, like, deep, vibey synths to it that I like.
Mm-hmm. And, oh, man, the way you talk about how his voice is emotive, and in this song, it's talking about, he's mourning. I guess his love was put on ice, so it's on a break, and he's mourning what he views as losing it, I think, in this song.
Yeah.
And just one thing I wanted to point out, because it's nice to me. The chorus is just him progressively saying, "No, I ain't so stable," over and over and over again, while the music kind of changes behind him. And I feel like the way that he says it, you can definitely feel like he's kind of losing it a little bit more and a little bit more each time.
It makes a good contrast, I think. Like you said, he's saying that he's not so stable anymore. But there is a line in here that I called out. He said, "I was able, breath so stable when I end it all," which kind of further paints his mental instability. But like the only time that he felt in control is when he was telling himself that he was going to kill himself because he's so like depressed because of, I guess, this relationship.
Man, just fucking starting it off, just
starting it off, sad boy. It's a title track. It's supposed to be. I mean, it's Mourn, right? If you get an album called Mourn and expect it to be happy, then that's on you. but
unless
yeah,
it's like MORN, morning, and it's like,
yeah,
the happy
fair.
morn.
That's fair if you're Irish and you do that thing. Is that just an Irish thing? Maybe I'm just being being a dick. I don't know.
I think you are,
but
because I say Mourn all the time.
Do you? Good morning.
I don't.
Exactly. You get out of here with your high ivory towers and looking down on me for making Irish jokes. Anyways, he it's a very like, it seems like he spiraled into a depression because his girlfriend didn't like him as much as he did, and he feels like giving up, which is the next track. Boom, segue, killing it. I'm working on my segue game. I'm gonna focus on it, and maybe in 10 episodes I'll be flawless. But until then, I'm going to keep calling it out every time I make one that I think is clever.
Segue goals.
Segue goals. Hashtag segue goals. Track 3 is Giving Up. This is the first standout track by track order means, but it's not the album, or it's not the track that made the album click for me. Possibly because there's a bit more vocal melody in here, so I picked up on it, but I didn't, on my initial listen, associate this track being the one that made it make sense. That's kind of further on, and it's actually later on. There's a track that is my favorite track on the album that made this album click. But yeah, it's another chill song. It's got some guitar, I think, in this one, and about like 2.5 minutes into it, there's a change that it introduces a more pronounced drum groove and instrumentation that kind of gives a nice build, I think, to the song. And it kind of, this might be offensive to people who are fans, but the only musical association I could make is that it kind of reminds me of Where's My Mind by the Pixies.
Okay.
And I haven't listened to a whole lot of the Pixies, but that's kind of where my mind went with the progression and the feel of this track.
I can get behind it. Just to be perfectly transparent, I do love that song, but I also have not heard just about anything by the Pixies. But,
yeah, exactly.
This song is probably where I started to really love the album the first time I heard it. Just because this is such a chill song. It's just the way he's just wailing, going on about being so tired of trying to run from his problems, and that he at this point has given up hope and doesn't care what happens whenever they meet him. He just is flat out of caring. And
he's given up.
He's given up. He's definitely given up. But like, there's this little lonely guitar melody going on in the background. It's like met with this kind of, I don't know what to call it. It's like a slidey bell piano sound almost.
Yeah.
Kind of like,
it's a very light, like kind of like music box feel. Like an old like wind up music box.
Yeah, there you go. See, I thought for a long time on how to describe it, and you just come out of here with music box, like you're some sort of whiz kid.
Yeah, I am. I actually helped write this album. I played the music box on this song, so I was a little offended that you couldn't just pick it out, but whatever.
Oh man, I'm sorry. But yeah, so it's not my favorite song, but it's one of my favorite songs.
Yeah, I agree. It lyrically, it follows kind of the trend on him giving up on life, on trying to change, on being honest. And a line that stood out to me, he says, "Promise me that you'll make the city burn. I don't care what it takes. It's what we deserve." So it seems, because he's using "we" it seems like multiple people have been affected by whatever has set him off for this track specifically, which makes me think it's not necessarily about a breakup. And he wants someone to destroy, quote unquote, the city, perhaps to show the world and set an example that they deserve for this to end, whatever this is.
Right? Yeah. See, and that's the thing. Like, a lot of the albums that we've listened to seem to have kind of a weaving story.
A through line.
Yeah. And this one kind of does. But there's definitely moments where it veers off of that path, which a lot of the albums that I like don't do that too much. Most of them have a clear, cohesive, like all the songs completely relate to each other.
Right, a concept album kind of feel to them.
Yeah, but this one, yeah, it kind of has that with, like, you hear a lot of breakup, depression, stuff like that. But there are definitely, like, some songs where I'm like, I don't think there's no way he's talking about that relationship or whatever, or the timeline doesn't match up. Like, what's happening? But
right, just a collection of songs. And there's nothing wrong with that.
It's definitely
good songs.
Speaking of songs that kind of don't fit the narrative, the next song, No Title, and
segue.
Just as a heads up, this is the song that we were talking about at the beginning.
Yes.
Whenever we gave the disclaimer, just to give everybody a heads up, it's I don't personally think I'm in a position to, like, comment too much on what's happening, other than just to give support, because like we've said in previous podcasts, we have lived extremely privileged lives compared to a lot of other people. So, like, I'm not going to sit here and comment on any of it, but I will just let you know, I give my support in any way I can to everybody who is out there on the front lines, everybody who's out there fighting for change. More power to you. You have my support. I just wanted to get that out of the way so I don't sound like, well, who's this fucking dickhead talking about whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's good to have that as kind of a disclaimer. We're two white dudes, right? We can't understand physically a lot of the pain that is happening in the Black communities, but we want that shit to change. We think there needs to be change for sure.
Definitely. But with that said, getting into the song, this song, No Title, it's I'll go ahead and speak to the subject matter. It is about cruelness. It is about hurt. It is about injustice. It specifically in America, and this song specifically is written in response to an event that happened in 2016, where a man, Philando Castile, was murdered by a Minnesota police officer, and Corbin is actually from Minnesota. So I would imagine he wrote this song because it hit home to him, because it happened near him, so he needed to get it out in the way that he could. But so, like we said, this album gets deep. But
it's dark, it's real.
Yeah,
but it's cool that he used this album as a platform to kind of speak out against that, I think.
Definitely. And it, like you said, the emotiveness of his voice, he is just screaming at points in this song. Like, he is just yelling. Like, he'll switch from how you said he's hard to understand, he'll be unintelligible, back to just yelling, back to unintelligible, back to just, so it's, as the music changes in the song, you can he's definitely feeling what he is singing about in the song.
Yeah, and I think it's impressive. I don't know if soul is the right word for it, but that's the word I've always used to describe singers that can convey emotions in such a way. And I feel like he has so much soul in his vocals that kind of get the point across and make you feel what he's feeling.
Definitely. And the fact that he can put that emotion into songs so well, like, I mean, it's nothing new here. Everybody likes emotive singing, but it's like, whenever you can truly feel pain, I guess, through a song, that's usually what captures me.
Yeah, I could probably muster up some tears while listening to this album just because
Yeah,
of how expressive he is.
yeah. It's crazy because you hear his voice and it is kind of I don't know, like a low. He has a pretty low voice,
Yeah,
or I guess I don't want to say operatic, but it's like it's just crazy how he can go from whenever he sings
it's very
low.
intense.
Yeah, it's very intense, and then he can just get up so high, like whenever he's just like screaming. I don't know. I'm going on about his
Yeah.
voice too much. It's
No, I mean, I think the voice is a big part of this album, and it's a big part of why I enjoy this album as much as I do. Not to sell the music short, in this track specifically, there's some ride cymbals, which I'm a proclaimed lover of. So it's got some jazzy drums with some ride cymbals in it that I called out. But the synths remind me, they kind of feel like a water level in like some older video games, where
yeah,
it's kind of like floaty, and it. So I think the music is chill, and the content of the lyrics is so harsh and like expressive that it's a contrast that just works very well, I think.
definitely. It's I don't. Yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head because it's even between. I feel between the drums and the melody
Yeah,
is a dissonance, which I mean, I guess you can take on another level where you're like, oh, even two parts of the music are fighting. It speaks on a bigger level to what he's actually talking about in the song, where
yeah, absolutely.
even two sides of the same thing can't agree with each other. But I
Yeah,
mean,
which is sadly kind of also a metaphor for what the fuck's happening in the real world right now,
yeah,
right? I mean, we're all law enforcement is supposed to be on the same side as the citizens, right? And
supposed to be.
protecting, and they're not,
Hmm.
and or they're quote unquote protecting in the wrong ways, and by that I mean murdering people that they deem as threats when they're not, which is fucked up.
Yeah, it's
Kind of makes me angry. It makes me very angry. We're gonna get angry until this is over, but I'm not gonna turn that anger into physical violence to get revenge. Segue. The
revenge song.
fifth track on the album is called Revenge Song. It's got a bit of a brighter synth melody on it, and it almost reminds me of Tovlu,
Hmm.
who we've mentioned, and that's an endpoint. We'll discuss that, what that means, what I mean by that, I guess, at the end of this episode. But the song is intense. Like his vocals are just belting out these lyrics in such a very raw and emotional way that, like, I mean, yeah, we've talked about it on every track so far, and we're probably going to talk about it for the rest of this album. It's just so like it's so good to feel, even if it's not a positive emotion
Yeah,
that it's feeling.
even if it's, I wouldn't even say even if it's not a positive, even if it's an extremely negative emotion,
Yeah,
because holy shit, like the, I will also fair warn people who are upset by
yeah.
songs.
The lyrical content of this one is also pretty heavy,
It's
so
about
maybe skip this one as well
yeah,
if
just
you're.
to give you a heads up. I mean, I don't know, but the song is about, I guess, Corbin, some one of his friends, maybe his girlfriend. I don't, like a woman that he is very close to was
Yeah,
previously sexually abused by somebody. And I guess whenever she was young, from what the sounds, like from what the lyrics were, it seems like she was younger. And he finds
right.
out and just fucking snaps. And he's like, no, we're getting
This
revenge.
shit's not gonna
Yeah,
stand.
he's like, we're going to go kill this motherfucker. Like, we're going to go find him. And
Yeah, the
he,
song's about breaking into this guy's house and murdering him.
yeah, and he's taking her along with him.
Right,
And he like, it's specifically about him wanting her to be able to get her revenge on the
right.
person, which I don't like.
He's kind of coaching her into doing it,
Yeah,
like saying, "Hey, like you got to go in there, you got to pull this gun on him, you got to shoot this guy dead."
yeah, and telling her how to, like, how to break the window so she doesn't
Right.
cut her hand, how to get into the house, how to slip in unnoticed. And
Yeah.
just once again, yeah, he's just like screaming that she's the one in power tonight, And just the way the song ends, where he's just yelling, "They're running from you, they're running from you,"
Yeah.
like it's
powerful.
Yeah, it's like it's. I've never had to like actually put into words the amount of emotion that is packed into this album, but like
Yeah, it's hard.
doing it is just it's a whole new thing.
Yeah, definitely. If you haven't figured this out, we both recommend this album. Give it a listen if you haven't listened to it, but for whatever reason you're listening to our podcast, listen to this album. You'll completely agree with what we're saying about how expressive he is.
Definitely.
With his voice.
Because, yeah, there's some songs where there's definitely some stuff where you hear like, oh, this person's talking about like deep issues or whatever, but you don't believe it, or
Right.
you don't feel that they're invested in this like shit. Like, I think that this song actually happened. Like, I think that what happened in this song actually happened in real life.
Yeah, when Taylor Swift sings about her breakup, she doesn't sound like she's upset about it, right? Yeah. There's not emotion in her voice, and obviously that's a very flanderized example. But in a lot of artists' music, the vocals are hard to. It's hard to express emotion just with your voice if you're not kind of reeling in it, and that's why I think he had to have been in a bad spot while recording this album to be able to pull up those emotions
Definitely
in such a way, or maybe just have such a personal connection to every song on this album.
Yeah,
but he kills it. He absolutely just like shreds himself open into his microphone, and it's something that I haven't heard a lot of previously.
Definitely, and like this is, I don't know. I'm the type of guy who I love to put on albums in the car and just fucking sing as like sing, yell. I listen to a lot of like punk type stuff, folk punk, whatever. I don't know, where you're just yelling and stuff, and I like to do that. And it's like even I can't even touch this album. Like I'll sing along with it, but there's parts where I just like I'll throw my voice out trying to meet whatever he's doing. But and that's the thing. It's we spent this whole time talking about just his vocal performance. I love the music on this song so much. It starts off with like it sounds like you're in some sort of like 80s movie, or like you're in like an old car driving through the forest and it's just raining, and there's like neon lights somewhere for some reason, but it's just these big boomy synths that bring in the melody, and it's just nice. It's very nice.
Yeah, it's great. The synths, like I said, remind me a bit of Tuvalu. So the fact that you're into the synths on this track kind of give me hope that once we get to that point in our podcast, you'll dig it. But
well, since we're all out of things to say about this song, maybe we'll lead into the next song, All Out.
What's the next song called?
All Out.
Oh, it's called All Out.
It's called All Out.
What a coincidence.
Oh my god. But this is also one of my favorites. I'm going to say that several times. But
I think this is my favorite track.
Really?
This is the one that made the album click for me the first time I heard it.
Well, that's awesome, because this is a great song.
It is. It's a bit more upbeat and happy sounding, I suppose, than other tracks on this album. It kind of gets out of that like deep dark hole, I think, a bit. But it's good. It's a song about lost love again, probably the same girl, and him kind of like maybe reflecting on it and saying like, man, I really wish we could have made this happen.
Yeah, like one of the lyrics, I'm all out of excuses for being alone. Like he's obviously wanting to get back together, which I mean we could tell from all the other songs, but it's, I don't know, it's just something about this song connects with me on a way that doesn't necessarily relate to love, but it's like whenever he's talking about being all out of reasons, all out of just everything, he's
calling himself out.
Yeah, he's like, there's, I don't know, it's just, for me, whenever I listen to it, it more speaks to depression and trying to like call yourself out on it.
Sure.
because I mean, it's hard.
I mean, he says he's out of reasons to push these feelings aside.
Yeah.
So like, it's not a stretch at all to say that it can't be about, struggling to get out of depression or to fix something in yourself.
Yeah. And I mean, that's honestly like this album has, I don't know. Oh, like it just hit me. I got it at a time where I wasn't feeling too hot.
Yeah.
And I was just in a funk, as the people say, for a long time. And then this song or this album kind of like helped me out, I guess. Would be.
Yeah, for sure. It's so weird that I work the same way. I get into those kind of depressive funks, as you said, and it's interesting. Maybe it's not super interesting. Maybe this isn't anything exciting. I'm just being pretentious, but I think it's weird that sad music is a way for me and presumably you as well to kind of deal with your own sadness by hearing someone else that's experiencing very similar things. Like obviously it's relatable, but I feel like if you're depressed, you most people would want to listen to music to distract them from it, or to like listen to happier music to kind of bring up their mood.
Yeah.
But I think we both tend to do the opposite.
I definitely get that because I also feel very pretentious when I say stuff like that. But I think it's true. Like I think a lot of people I think there's two camps. There's the people that do the distracting, and that's like they listen to like the poppy happy music, and then kind of the people who indulge in it.
And, kind of relish it.
Yeah, and that's something I'll get into on another song. Actually, my favorite song on the album. I will get into it further, but like indulging in it, and I feel like the reason that it helps is because whenever you're depressed or just whenever you're having just a generally hard time, maybe you're not like actually like like clinically depressed. Maybe you're just having a really really hard time, and like even though you'll get out of it at some point, it's still just hard to deal with. Like whenever you're feeling those huge emotions, you can't always contextualize them. You can't think like, oh well, this is how I'm feeling. This is you just know that you feel like shit. You know that you feel like there's a giant weight inside of you. You know that you feel like maybe if you actually like are depressed or just I hate using that because if like saying if you actually are depressed, like discounting somebody's feelings, whatever. Like, just know that I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to make the distinction between like, I guess clinical depression
and what I guess acute depression or spontaneous in the moment kind of depression.
Yeah, I'm trying to make that sort of distinction, but like, if I don't know, whenever you can hear somebody else contextualize it for you, and it gives you kind of perspective to think about how you're feeling, I feel like that helps whenever you can hear somebody else talk about it.
I think it's important to make that distinction, and more so, it's important to put out the fact that it's okay to be sad. Yeah. Everyone is sad at points in their life, and it's not something to be ashamed of. It's not something that you should just like hide from or distract yourself from. I think it's good, and maybe this is why you and I like sad music, is because it's good to kind of dwell on that and realize that, like, look, I'm sad, I'm bummed out. Like you said, it's a temporary thing that you know is going to pass, but here's where I am, and you just kind of have to accept that. And I think sad albums kind of hit in that way, especially with this one, the way he sings. It's just like, I don't know, it's kind of calming just being able to accept that.
Yeah. Oh man, it's all the feels.
Yeah, and if you can't just accept that, and you don't want to like, I don't know, distract yourself with happy music, maybe you should just go somewhere and hunker down. You were laughing because you knew where I was going with it.
Oh my god!
Hunker Down is the 7th track. We shouldn't be laughing about this depressing album, but you know, we got Hunker Down.
Yeah.
This track, I think this is the track I had the least amount to say about, but I'm not super crazy about it musically. Lyrically, it seems to be about Corbin building a bunker, or he has built a bunker to wait out the end of the world with his ex-girlfriend / girlfriend.
See, I think this is a fantasy, and I'm right there with
yes.
This is the song. This is probably my least favorite song on the album. Not to say I don't like it at all or anything, but it's I don't know. I don't have too much to say about it, but I definitely think this is some sort of fantasy in his head where he's like,
okay,
the world is ending. I'm gonna come get you. We're gonna meet up and we're gonna go into a bunker, and if you want to rave, I got these little speakers that I can play. I got a fucking DVD player. We're gonna just hang out.
Yeah, I got it all. So this is the first of 2 tracks, I think, that my brain went in a kind of a darker, more fucked up. Maybe because context of this album, I don't know. But in my mind, it came off a little bit. Maybe this is just me reading too much into it, but it came off to me like maybe he's planning to kidnap his girlfriend and is trying to coax her by making it sound like it's a good idea. Like, no, it's great. It'll be fine. Just like stop freaking out. Like, yeah, I maybe grabbed you off the street somewhere, but like it'll be totally fine. We got DVDs. We don't got DVDs, but we got TV.
Yeah.
And that thought, I don't know why it came into my head, but it persisted into the next track as well. That it's maybe just a little unsettlingly creepy. That maybe drove my mind in that direction. I don't know why.
I mean, I could see it. Like honestly, with the way this album goes, like I could totally see that being a thing.
Yeah, I mean he's depressed about his breakup. He's saying that he's not stable.
Yeah,
he's dealing with a lot of shit mentally. So like, I guess it's not that far of a stretch, but I'm sure it wasn't intended to be taken that way.
Yeah. Shit. Well, I don't have a segue like you did. I don't have the fucking 200 IQ to think of a great segue.
It's okay. Look, if you can't find something interesting, then maybe you can just find something safe.
You did it.
I did it.
I did it
for you.
Well, okay. So next song, track number 8, I believe, if my counting is correct. Something Safe. This is my favorite song on this album. And it's I don't know. Just something about the slowed down feel of it all. Like,
yeah, it's got a good ambient feel.
Definitely. And I'm a sucker for ambient music. You all might know that. You might not. I don't know. Maybe. But it's just, it sounds like the drums are actually just slowed down drums.
Yeah.
Like
it's very echoey.
Yeah. And the music, like the melody sounds like it's being played through water. Like there's water in between you and the melody. And it's just great. And of course,
it has a really good groove.
He's back with the just wailing emotive vocals where he's just going on and on about she's his something safe. She makes him feel all right. It's like she's, even whenever he's feeling absolutely terrible, it's okay because she's there. She's his comfort blanket.
Yeah.
This is the song that I was talking about. I connect with because of the whole indulging in depression, sadness type thing.
Sure.
This song I relate with, instead of like talking about a woman, talking about depression, because I don't know. It's just very, I'm trying to think of a way to say this because I'm sure a lot of people feel this. But when you are depressed for a long period of time, it begins to feel comfortable. Like you don't want to change it. And that's what this song connects with me. Like there's one line in particular: from where I stand tonight, the sinking feeling feels just fine. And that, like, every time that line comes on and he sings it, it makes me think of those nights where it's like 3 a.m. It's lightly raining outside. Whenever I was like a teenager and I'd go outside and just stand and look into the woods, and it was like everything, I felt so awful. But then you'd go outside and like the moon would be there reflecting off the trees. It's kind of raining, and I'd just like smoke a cigarette or something and just like stare, and like for a moment, for like a fleeting moment, it was like everything. It was like a warm blanket washing over me, and it's like,
Yeah,
okay, everything's fine.
it's like the perfect moment, even though you're struggling, externally or outside of that moment. It's just kind of I get maybe like a calm in the storm kind of a thing, just like being able to recognize that you're there and it's okay and it's peaceful,
Yeah,
even though it's amidst something that's so chaotic. I think
definitely.
as I mentioned in the last one, this song also kind of had a creepy vibe to it. That the song is kind of talking about like being isolated with his girl or
Hmm.
with himself and depression. There's also actually a rap verse on this song.
Yeah. Yep.
The only he has a featured artist, Antoine, um, but it's the only rap verse on the album. But yeah, it's kind of a very isolated song, or at least in theme. It's about kind of being isolated out in the middle of the woods, maybe in his bunker. But it kind of
Yeah.
continued that creepy vibe to me of kidnapping a girl to make her love him. But I'm again, I'm 100% sure that's not what he intended. It's just where my brain went.
See, I I could almost agree with you there. And honestly, I could
Almost.
almost even agree that it was intended if it were not for the next song, The Fold Up.
The Fold Up. Track number 9. It's another upbeat track compared to the rest of the album. It seems there's a lot of lyrics in this one too compared to the rest of the album. A lot of the songs previously, they've had lyrics obviously, but they haven't been uh I don't know, they haven't been as drawn out or as detailed or specific. There's a whole lot of lyrics to this song in comparison.
Yeah.
It, it seems to be a story of maybe another fantasy, like you mentioned, or a story of himself that isn't necessarily true. But he talks about crashing and dying while driving through the forest, presumably to get back to his bunker. But he's talking about he crashed his car and died. His girlfriend was still in the bunker. She obviously is upset and destroyed by it. She moves back to the city and picks up a drug habit, is what I got out of this. And
Hmm.
then the track builds and builds musically until this point where that his girlfriend kills herself, possibly from overdosing. And then there's like a drop and the drums kick in with full force. And then as you get to the end of the song, plot twist, she didn't actually die, so she might as well try again.
Yep.
Is kind of what I got out of it. Is that she had this drug habit, she overdoses, and cinematically, I guess you think she's dead, and then it gets to the end, and the lyrics she says, or he says, "You folded. Wish I had seen what that dope did. Hold you close like that time your nose bled. Dying slow with no one to notice. Now it's morning, and the couple above you is moaning, and your bones ache. Now it's time to try once more." And he kind of repeats that a couple times, which could be try to get your shit together. It's a new day kind of a thing. But I also kind of got that maybe she was going to try to overdose again
Yeah.
to be with him.
I mean, yeah, especially given the whole general theme of this album, I think
Yeah,
it's safe to say that it's time to try once more is referencing her take picking up the habit almost in a roundabout way to kill
right.
herself without actually having to do it, I guess.
Yeah. No, it's an easier way to kill yourself than shooting yourself, or it doesn't require as much confidence, I suppose, to
Yeah,
do it.
because you can have the plausible deniability where you're like, oh, it wasn't a straight up attempt or something.
Right.
But yeah, I definitely think this song, like, I mean, even it's the fold up. I always got like he crashed his car. He was going 110. Like it folded around a tree, so it was like the fold up.
Yeah.
And then I don't know this. I don't know what terminology people are using nowadays, but I know back when I was in high school, if you got really high, you were folded. So
yeah,
this person,
and I think that's definitely, like I said, at the last verse or the last part of the song, he says "you folded,"
yeah,
kind of maybe referring to her like giving in to the urge to take drugs again.
yeah, I definitely think it's a very bleak cautionary tale about people getting into drug habits, not being able to get out. I mean, I guess in this case, she didn't. There was no sense that she was trying to get out of it, but
Right.
just in essence, just you're killing yourself. And I
Yeah.
mean, that's what she was trying to do in the song. It's just he goes into so much detail. It's just a very,
Yeah.
once again, very intense song. And like like one of the lyrics you brought up, there was no one to notice. What was it? Like, I don't know. Whenever she killed herself in her apartment, and then there was no one to notice that she was gone. It was just like it paints
Right.
this picture so vividly of just like almost like if you've ever seen like Train Spotters or something, just somebody just all just destroyed in a room, laying there, lifeless on a bed, and just nobody around. And it's just I don't know, it's just very bleak. Bleak is
Yeah, it's very bleak and it's very detailed and cinematic.
man. Well, I guess I won't have to drag you into this last song. Just that
Oof.
shit. Okay, last song. Last song, 10th song on the album. Title is Dragged.
That was a
That
segue.
was my segue. See, the problem with my whole shtick is that it depends on me not being funny, and then I can point out how not funny I am. But at a certain
Right.
point, it just stopped.
It stops being funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because then it's
Even
just,
though you weren't being funny to begin with, it's no longer
yeah.
funny that you're not funny.
Man,
But now that we've called attention to it, maybe it's funny again. You
yeah.
know, maybe
See,
that's how that works.
that's what I'm hoping. Maybe it'll come full circle.
It always does.
But the way this song plays out, it makes me think that once again, the last song, the fold up, was like a fantasy type, a little vignette, I guess,
Yeah, I mean, he couldn't have written the song
if he died.
if he died. So
But I guess I don't know. The first in the first verse, he says, "So think of me driving fast, blacked out in a Pontiac. It'd break my
yeah,
heart if you ever darken, don't crack." So I mean, like maybe he's just the last song was just like a little like what if scenario that he brought up, and he was
yeah.
like, I don't want you to react that way if I did this.
If I died,
Yeah,
yeah. I think it's I think that is very accurate because like I think this ends the story of the album if there is one.
hmm it. This is such a far cry from the first song. I think with this being the ending song, it
Yeah.
ends the album very epically. I
Yes.
think just because it just builds and builds and builds to the end. What it's got like 4 verses or something. Like it seems like a longer
Yeah.
song than it actually is, just because so much happens.
Right.
But it's, I mean, we've already pretty much gone over it. It's about, I think this is his acceptance, I guess.
Yeah. So I got that the song seemed to be about him leaving his girlfriend.
Yeah.
So maybe like you said at the beginning, the narrative, the timeline doesn't necessarily line up with a lot of this stuff. But it seemed to be about him leaving his girlfriend, knowing that dragging it out would only make the breakup worse when it eventually happened, kind of knowing that it was doomed from the start, which honestly seems a bit like character development,
Yeah.
considering a lot of the previous tracks were about him kind of clinging to her and begging her to come back and potentially kidnapping her, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. It's definitely shows some growth in the fact that it seems like now he's realizing that it seems like after the last song, he kind of clicked and thought, well, I'm acting this possessive, like this clingy, super dependent way. If she were to react that way to me,
Yeah.
it would end poorly. So
Yeah.
I shouldn't be doing that. That is only going to drag you down. It's going to drag me down. There's no good can come from that.
Yeah, and the song and the album ends with this outro where he says, "I didn't want to drag it on. I was gone too long. All I left was the tape of the songs I was writing. It just made your arms more empty." And so maybe this whole album is the tape that he was referring to, and that he used this album as a way to break up with her, perhaps, or he broke up with her and then left her this album just to kind of say like, look, I don't expect you to understand. We have to break up. This is what's been going through my mind, kind of a thing.
I like that. I mean, it kind of ties in, honestly, if this is true with For Your Eyes Only, where it was an album
Big if
left,
true.
where it was an album left for somebody else, or to explain something, I guess. Yeah. Which I don't know. That might not be what this album is. It definitely was what For Your Eyes Only was, but that'd be a cool little tie through thing.
Yeah, a little connection.
Yeah.
Overall, I like this album a whole lot. I think this is my favorite of the albums you've introduced to me.
Oh shit!
So I think this is a good hit. I like the rawness of his voice, which is not something that I'm accustomed to saying. Despite the lyrics not really doing a whole lot for me at a lot of points in the album, it's kind of more of the same like breakup stuff.
Yeah.
But the way he expresses it is so unique and special. At points in the album, I definitely feel like I could make myself cry just hearing how pained his voice is when he's singing. The music is pretty good overall. It's very like synthy, and if Corbin's other music, which I actually tried to look into a little bit, I couldn't find a whole lot. But if I can't find any music by him, I might just check out Shlomo, because he seems to have produced this entire album with DJ, I believe is how it's pronounced.
DJ.
I'm assuming it's DJ, but it's D33J. Strangely, I felt the middle tracks of this album were kind of the best, more powerful song, which is, as we've discussed previously, normally when a lot of albums didn't have filler tracks.
Yeah.
But it's good. I like this whole album. 10 out of 10.
Oh, 10 out of 10. Okay. I don't even know if I'd go that far, but yeah. No,
it has 10 tracks. All 10 of them were great.
Yeah, there's 10 tracks. Yeah, 10 out of 10 tracks.
Nailed it.
I like that you said you enjoyed the rawness of his voice, because, oh boy, at some point, I'm going to convert you to somebody who will literally just listen to somebody yelling into a microphone and learn to enjoy it.
I mean, I might already. I don't know. I feel like my problem with a lot of rawness in vocals is that there's not a suitable soul to it, right?
Yeah.
It's raw just because the person can't sing, not because they're singing in such a way to drive an emotion home.
Yeah.
That may be a hot take, and I may be completely wrong, and I'm sure I'm wrong, but that's how I feel.
Well, I mean, we'll see if you're wrong, but
we'll see.
I'm glad you like the album.
Yeah, me too.
The thing about not being able to find Corbin's music, he goes by Spooky Black also. So
I saw that. I didn't look for Spooky Black's music, but I did notice that.
I think this might have been his first album, as his first full-length album as Corbin. I think he had Welcome to the Hell Zone. It was like an EP that he released as Corbin. But also, I don't think, I know you don't use Spotify, actually. I don't know why I said I don't think. I know you don't use Spotify, but on Spotify, he apparently, like, August of 2019 just lost the ability to log into his Spotify account. So he had to start a new one. And so all of his newer stuff on Spotify is under his full name, Corbin Smidzik. So
interesting. Yeah, so I use YouTube Music. And strangely, YouTube Music has made a connection between Corbin and there's another artist named Corbin, apparently, that does like rock and roll stuff.
Oh.
And they have a Christmas album called Rock and Roll Christmas. I haven't listened to it because I knew it wasn't him.
Oh, man.
But it does have some singles from like 2018 and 2017, which was when Mourn came out. So I definitely need to check those out. And I'll look into Spooky Black and maybe see if his full name is listed on YouTube as well. But yeah, I definitely want to find more of this guy's music. 10 out of 10.
Oh, yeah. That's great to hear. I'm so happy.
Next week, we're going to be listening to Goddess by Banks. Banks is, I want to say, one of my first experiences with dark pop, but it's I don't know if dark pop is applicable. It's very synthy driven. It's very similar. Shlomo, who produced most of this album, if not all of this album, by Corbin, also did some production and songwriting on this Banks album. And I know you've kind of just been introduced to the idea of dark pop being a thing, so I think this is kind of a step down that road. Ideally, the next 3 albums, I think, that I'm going to be choosing are dark pop, so sorry if you don't like this kind of music and you're a listener, maybe tune out on my weeks. But in between, maybe we'll have Joey break it up, or maybe Joey will tie some connections in. Fuck if I know. We'll figure it out. But yeah, Banks, Goddess, it's a pretty solid album. And there is a connection that Joey has that he might not realize he has. But we'll get to that next week.
I'm gonna be searching for it. I'm coming hot and heavy, man. I'm gonna know the secret.
Yeah, I mean it's not a secret that anybody else would know, which I guess is why I'm calling it a secret. But there is a connection. Maybe someone else could figure it out if they listened to our past episodes. I feel like we may have mentioned something that is related. But you got to tune in next week to find out. Until then, if you guys want to find us, to communicate, to talk with us about this album or any album, tell us your thoughts on Corbin's Mourn. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, everywhere. Just look us up. We're pretty much everywhere you could possibly be with podcasts and stuff, and we'll respond. We're waiting by the phone for comments.
Are we on
and
Spotify?
Nobody's. Yeah, we're also on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Google Podcasts.
We're
everywhere.
Spotify, guys.
Yeah, that means we're legit, right?
That's some real shit right there.
I don't know how to make money off of Spotify.
You don't. That's the thing. Nobody does, except for like 5 people.
Yeah. Well, if you guys want to support us, watch us on YouTube. That's the most clear cut directions I can find.
Yeah.
On how to get professional, I suppose, with this shit. But enough self plugging. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Hope you guys enjoy the album, because we fucking loved it.
Yeah.
I fucking loved it at the very least. And tune in next week for the Banks album, Goddess. Point of clerical order. There is a deluxe edition of Goddess out. We will not be discussing the bonus tracks that are included in that. We're just going to go with the core vanilla album, Goddess. But until next week, stay in our feedback loop.
Bye.